so happy we alive.
Good evening, and welcome to Louisville Late Night. This evening, we're in the lovely Clifton Center in the Crescent Hill neighborhood. And this evening, we're here as a kind of relish of America, that the spirit of America is still alive, and that one thing we do in America is we look at things from many different views. And this evening we have a wonderful person, Amy Goodman, who has been leading the charge on getting a full perspective of what's happening in the world. She's a true leader and a wonderful person, and we can't wait to hear what she says. So get ready for Amy Goodman.
Once again, in introducing this video, which I have seen, which will not exactly keep you in the derby festive spirit, but it's very important, as is what Amy has to say. So thank you for being here tonight and enjoy the program.
I would like tonight to call for a removal, an immediate removal, of all U.S. troops from CBS, ABC, NBC, Fox.
This program, I think, is just superb. We have 3 aircraft carrier battle groups.
Still a great deal of activity. Just like out of an action movie.
We've hit, we've struck. You can hear the sort of adrenaline pumping. We are coming, and you can't do anything about it.
Don't believe the hype! False media! We don't need it, do we?
We have to fight for an independent media.
She's a journalist. She's the host of Democracy
My name
Now!
is Amy Goodman.
Who do you represent?
Democracy Now! But most media outlets do not report.
Civilian toll is an afterthought in all of this.
You can keep the Pentagon.
With no more.
Millions of people out on the street.
You can keep the propaganda. And we say it is not an army. Keep each and every TV that's been trying to convince me to participate in some prep school punk's plan to perpetuate retribution. Thank you very much for joining us.
Don't believe the hype!
The media are among the most powerful institutions on earth because they're not only among the wealthiest, but they're the way the whole world views us and we view each other. The other morning I was invited on a commercial radio station, a little bit of a shock jockey station for a few minutes after the statue of Saddam Hussein was pulled down by the US Marines in Baghdad. One of their first questions was, how do you feel now? They also asked me about what I think of the torture rooms that were found. In talking about the torture rooms, I could only think about how important it was to be aware of what torture is, how horrific it is, whether Saddam Hussein does it, that military tyrant who was shored up by the United States for so long, or the fact that now there is an actually acceptable debate in this country, in the mainstream media, about whether the U.S. should torture people to get information, and if the U.S. doesn't do it, for example, those at Guantanamo Bay, those at Bagram Air Base in Afghanistan, isn't it okay to send them to countries that do engage in torture? I thought those torture chambers of Saddam Hussein are a very important lesson to all of us about what is not acceptable in a civilized society, neither here nor there. There was a piece in the Wall Street Journal the other day about the difference between CNN and CNN International, two different networks owned by the same company. And they talked about the difference on that day, the day that the statue was pulled down. On CNN, All day we watched that statue pull down, then went back up and pulled down again. On CNN International, they also showed the statue pulled down, but it was a split screen. And on half the screen, they showed the casualties of war. And on the other half, they showed the statue pulled down. Now, I'm not talking about the difference between CNN and Al Jazeera. I'm talking about the difference between CNN and CNN International. It means that that company knows exactly what it's doing, what they provide for domestic consumption, and what they provide to the rest of the world. Now think about what the rest of the world sees, and what we see here in the United States. Some of you may have heard the hour discussion we had with CNN's Aaron Brown, and we're asking him a lot of questions like, where are the pictures of casualties in the US media?
I think there are actually legitimate questions here about have we over-sanitized this.
And he said, well, some of them are tasteless. And we said, well, war is tasteless. I was speaking at St. Mark's Church in New York, and I talked about how Al Jazeera shows all these casualties pictures. And a journalist came up to me afterwards from Berlin and said, it's not just Al Jazeera that's showing these. All over Europe, we see them day and night. It's just here in the United States that you don't see them. And so we asked Aaron Brown, why don't they show some of the shots? You know, CNN was kicked out of Baghdad, and he said, yeah, it's tough to get those shots. He says, you have no trouble taking Al Jazeera's footage of the bombs over Baghdad, you know, the kind of fireworks display that we saw that nightscape. But when it came to taking their pictures of casualties, well, he said, they're tasteless. I really do think that if for 1 week in the United States we saw the true face of war, we saw people's limbs sheared off, we saw the kids blown apart, for 1 week war would be eradicated. Instead, what we see in the US media, and it's just quite astounding, it's the video war game. Those gray, grainy photographs with the target on them, looking down. But we don't see those people as the targets on the ground.
The administration is very proud of the precision with which they went about yesterday's attack.
There have been apparently very few casualties, which is exactly what the United States government wanted, right, Colonel?
A Newsday reporter asked me the other day, am I opposed to embedded reporters? You know, they say it in the mainstream media, I don't know if they say, and our reporter embedded with the Marines.
I'm Diana Muriel, who is embedded with British troops in southern Iraq.
101st Airborne in the job. This is crazy, these rules are embedded.
Even Walter Cronkite the other day raised some objections. What an unfortunate choice of words, he said. And he was critical. You rarely hear that criticism in the mainstream media, the working journalists today. What kind of critical reporting do we get?
I find this interesting that when the tanks are inspected, it's not unlike taking your car to a gas station. They have a dipstick that they put into the engine to check the oil levels.
No one does this better in the world than the American GI.
It's this parade of retired generals that are on the network's payrolls.
I'm back with two of our military analysts who have been with us this morning, who are helping us understand this war.
You now have people like Wesley Clark, General Wesley Clark, on the payroll of CNN, who is questioning their embedded reporter on the front line. He is questioning the reporter, and the reporter is saying, yes, sir, no, sir.
This is a very special moment in time for the men and families and for this country. It is often fascinating for me as General Clark. I spent a good